Hello Capricorn, my name is Agatha and this is the astrology reading for September 2016. This month there's two eclipses. The eclipses usually talk about a very major transformation in whatever area of our natal chart they fall into. On the 1st of September there's a solar eclipse on 9 degrees of Virgo, and then on the 16th of September there's a lunar eclipse on 24 degrees of Pisces. And what does this mean to you, Capricorn? In your case, the solar eclipse, which talks about new beginnings, something new which is being born into your life, happens on your 9th house. So for some of you might be starting university studies. You might be going to college. This course might be something to do with accounting. It might have something to do with food. So it could be, in Portuguese we say nutricionismo, nutrition studies, or it could be health, anything related to health studies. So, and you might be overwhelmed with work at least for the next 6 months. This could where you need to read a lot of books and you need to take information from a lot of books and you need to do a lot of work. You need personal. You need to work on a lot of, how do you say, relatórios. So there's a lot of not presentations, but how do you say, projetos. You need to do a lot of work that you then have to present to your college teachers. So you might be working late at night and you might be working hard. If it's not that, it might be something connected with your sister-in-law or brother-in-law. So there's maybe a big change in his life or her life, maybe for health reasons. Maybe he or she is a bit sick and needs to change his diet or her diet, and you literally see his life or her life transforming for the next 6 months. Imagine that he or she has weight problems and for whatever reason needs to do even bypass surgery. I just thought of that. But let's say it's something simple. He or she changes his diet or her diet for health reasons, and for the next 6 months he or she might lose a lot of weight. It could be that. It could be all sorts of things. Others, it could be that, so maybe some of you are immigrating, are leaving your country and going to work abroad. And working abroad might be for some of you in service-related industries. So you could be working in hotels, you could be working in coffee shops, anything related to service. You could be like an employee where you serve coffees, or you might be a room employee, meaning you clean rooms in a hotel. Anything related to service industries or health related industries. You might be a nurse, for instance, Capricorn, and you might immigrate to another country where they give you better conditions, but you'll be working very hard for at least for the next 6 months. You'll be working very, very hard, and probably maybe the night shift, maybe for some of you, it depends. Another way of reading this, it has to do with religion. So maybe you are embarking in a more decisive way in your religion. It could be the religion given to you by your parents or any other religion. And this religion, whatever it is, or this spiritual path, could have a lot of tiny little rules about everything. And it could have even rules connected with food. So you cannot eat this. I'm sorry. In order for you to eat that, it needs to be served in a certain way. It needs to be if it's meat, it needs to be killed in a certain way. It could be a lot of rules, it could be a very restrictive type of religion, And if it's not that, it could be embarking like in the opposite direction. You could have been, for instance, Capricorn, religious, but then you start reading about your religion or other religions, and you start reading about spirituality, and it's like you are trying to trying to be rational and logical about religion, about faith, about belief, and For the next 6 months, you might be reading a lot and intensely about all sorts of religions, about spirituality, and some might be, after all this reading, you might decide you're an atheist, You might decide that you're no longer a believer. If it's not that, it could be that you are, whatever you're studying is esoterical in nature. It could be astrology, runes, tarot, something like that. You can even be doing a course, for instance, in astrology. And it's kind of, whatever course you're doing, you could be doing it at night, and it could be very demanding, more demanding than you thought it would be. And so whatever it is, either being really strict in a religion, either being trying to be logical about religion and spirituality, and even embarking on, even deciding that you're an atheist, or even studying, astrology or other esoterical sciences, there might be a clash of opinions with a sibling, a sister or a brother. Maybe he or she is very spiritual and doesn't really... there's a clash. Imagine that he is really strict Catholic and doesn't like astrology. You should be doing that because in the Bible it says blah 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 blah, and that's wrong. Or let's say that you are you're a Hindu. I don't know. I'm just giving all possible examples, and you decide I'm going to be a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist. I've been reading about Buddhism. It makes perfect sense with me. And like a sibling's like, it makes no sense. We're Hindus. We're not going to be... what? So there might be a clash. Or like you decide, I'm an atheist. I mean, all religions are awful. Oh my God, the things they do. And a sibling might not agree with you. What do you mean you're an atheist? What do you mean? What do you mean? So there's like a clash, maybe, with your siblings. With a sibling who's very spiritual, who's very religious. If it's not that, it could be neighbors, for instance. Maybe you live in a neighborhood and all your neighbors always saw you, Capricorn, going to church, for instance. And suddenly you're not going to church. What the hell is... Why are you not going to church? I didn't see you there Sunday. Were you ill? It could be that. It could be your neighborhood doesn't get it. You stop going to church. Why did you do that? So many possible ways of reading that. This new way of thinking has to do with the fact that you're changing yourself, because Pluto is transiting your first house. It's like a big transformation in you. This has to do with, there's inner transformation, there's transformation of beliefs. Okay? So this is the solar eclipse. Then the lunar eclipse, Capricorn, which happens on the 16th of September at 24 degrees of Pisces, happens on your third house. This could be, for instance, for some of you, a car that dies, like the end of the car. It just dies. Something to do with water. Imagine that there's some sort of flooding, even flash flooding in your neighborhood, and your car is parked outside, and then suddenly it's no longer there because your street is turned into a river, and then you see your car floating away, bye-bye, so no more car. Your car disappears. Something like that. Or the river, if you live near a river, if you live near an ocean, something like that, it might affect negatively your car. Something to do with water, If it's not that, if it's not problems with your car, it could be something to do with the sibling. So maybe like the final discussion, the final argument because of religion, not necessarily just because of religion, but it could be religion, spirituality with a sibling. So like some of you might have like a very big argument in it, like the argument that defines all arguments, and this argument kind of finalizes this confrontation in terms of beliefs and your beliefs and your siblings' beliefs. It could be that. And for others it could be something to do with the health of the sibling. Maybe he or she is ill, and maybe around the 16th of September either a diagnosis is made or there's a finalization in terms of his health or her health, meaning that a treatment is over. Maybe the treatment is over because you can't go any further, or maybe he or she doesn't have enough money to continue. There's some sort of obstacle that doesn't allow this treatment to go further. Let's say that the health issues connected with the sibling might have to do with mental health issues. Let's say he or she is depressed and has been depressed for a while, and either he or she could decide, okay, I'm going to take care of this, I'm going to take care of myself, and then asks for help, and then starts seeing a therapist. Or it could be that he or she has been doing that for a while, but can no longer afford to pay a therapist, so that, they're not completely done, but they can't continue. Others, it could be to do with addiction. So maybe a sibling is forcibly committed because of addictions. Maybe an authority figure, even authorities, like he or she is caught with drugs, for instance. I'm giving all possible examples, okay? I'm not saying this will happen, okay? Let's say a sibling has been having drug problems for a few years, and he or she is caught with drugs, and the judge says you're going to go to rehab, or going to go to prison, it's like forcibly. It could be prison, but it could be rehab. Like forcibly, he or she is committed in terms of in a rehab institution facility. Or it could be something that your sibling decides to do. Okay, I have this problem, I have this addiction problem, I'm going to take care of myself. It doesn't mean that an outside authority commits him or her. Then he or she decides, I'm going to go into a rehab facility, I'm going to take care of this addiction, I'm going to get rid of this addiction. And it might take 6 months. It might take 6 months until he or she is completely free of this addiction. Or if it's a forcibly committed thing, it could be a 6-month sentence, okay? Or 6 months rehabilitation time, for instance. If it's not drugs, it could be mental issues. So maybe a sibling, not necessarily a sibling, could also be a neighbor. Maybe a sibling has mental issues that I'm gonna give all the worst type of example: schizophrenia, psychosis, like a type of mental issues where you cannot help yourself. You do not have the mental ability to help yourself. So maybe he or she around the 16th of September, this could be brought on by an addiction problem, but not necessarily. But let's say that he or she has like a mental health issue, like a psychotic break around the 16th of September, and then the police is called, and he or she is forcibly committed into a facility that deals with mental health care. It could be that also. If it's not a sibling, it could be a neighbor who's like nuts, absolutely nuts, and he or she is like has a psychotic break, or has like a really violent outburst, and the police is called, and he or she is taken to the hospital or to prison or something like that. Or you might be having a conflict with a neighbor, and this neighbor might turn violent. It could be verbally, not necessarily another way. But whatever happens, this could be like the final confrontation with a neighbor, if you've been having problems with a certain neighbor. So it's like the final confrontation, but it kind of might take 6 months until you completely get rid of these issues with this particular neighbor or group of neighbors. I'm thinking more one neighbor. And I'm thinking guns, and I'm thinking a young neighbor. Not necessarily young, but someone who might have access to fire weapons. So beware of that. Be careful. I don't want to scare you, but in the worst possible type of scenario would be a neighbor who loses it, and not necessarily goes for you, but it could be anyone in the neighborhood. It just goes around in the neighborhood and just shooting everyone. I hope not, okay? But I'm giving all possible examples, okay? So that's it. This is the reading that I have for you, Capricorn. This is a very general reading. If you'd like a personal consultation, please send an email to duniazad@gmail.com and I'll be delighted to work with you.